Hey guys, welcome back. So for today's video, I thought that I would actually talk about books to get you hooked on cozy mysteries. Now, if you are not new to my channel, chances are you're a fan of cozy mysteries, since that is most frequently what I talk about on this channel. But if you are new around here, first of all, welcome. You very well may have come from Samantha's channel. My last video, I actually talked about how her and I are starting a cozy mystery book club, which I'm super excited about. But that actually kind of was the inspiration behind today's video, because I figured I would kind of highlight a few books to basically pull you into the cozy mystery genre if you're not already familiar with it. And if you are already in love with cozy mysteries, or you're well versed in cozy mysteries, maybe these are a few books that you haven't otherwise read, and me talking about them may actually convince you to pick them up. So I only have a handful of books, first of all, because I do not want to overwhelm those of you who are new to the genre. And really, I feel like these are a great compilation, I guess, that outlines what makes cozy mysteries so great for each of their own reasons. So I'll go ahead and talk about each of the books, as well as why I think that they would make great kind of introductions into the cozy mystery genre, that hopefully if you have read any of these, or if you plan to read any of these, by the time you are done with one or maybe all of them, you will fall in love with the genre just like I have. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the books. Okay, so the first book that I want to talk about is actually an easy one and very obvious, and I chose it on purpose because I want to ease those of you not familiar with the genre into cozy mysteries. And so that said, we're actually starting off with an Agatha Christie novel, more specifically The Body in the Library. Now, no doubt you've heard of Agatha Christie. She's only one of the more famous crime writers ever, but you can also argue that she's kind of the one that, at least in my opinion, started the whole cozy mystery genre, at least to a certain extent. And let's kind of break it down, because when it comes to the Miss Marple series in particular, it's got a lot of cozy elements. And what I mean by that is we have our amateur sleuth, obviously in this case is Miss Marple. She is an older woman who is not a detective or have any kind of police background, but just kind of like your normal person taking it upon herself to solve crimes that happen in her small town. And that brings us to our second point. Cozy mysteries often, but not always, but oftentimes take place in small towns. And in this case, most of the Miss Marple series takes place in her small English town. And so those two things combined really are kind of like the pillars when it comes to cozy mysteries. Now, I wanted to actually choose this particular book, The Body in the Library, because again, it focuses on Miss Marple. I know she's very popular, but I feel like more often than not, her Poirot series gets more play. You know, we've got Death on the Nile that's coming out. We had Murder on the Orient Express, which has been remade multiple times. And in that case, as much as I love that series, Poirot is a detective. So automatically it's kind of less, I don't want to say less cozy, but because he's actually got a detective background, it's not as much of an amateur sleuth as Miss Marple. And you know, also I kind of want to like give Miss Marple some more love. So really quickly, The Body in the Library is basically exactly what it sounds like. We've got a woman who is found dead in someone's house, and the reason that this is strange is because the people who own the house don't know who this woman is. So they come downstairs one morning and there's this random woman dressed in like a fancy outfit dead in their library. And so they call their friend Miss Marple to kind of help figure it out. And along the way, somebody else is murdered, and it seems like those two murders are connected, but it's up to Miss Marple to kind of figure out and put the clues together when it comes to that. So I feel like that's a really good foray into cozy mysteries. You know, obviously, again, Agatha Christie is really popular, and she's popular for a reason. So if anything, this would be a great foundation to get somebody hooked on cozies. Okay, so the next book that I want to talk about is called Meet Your Baker by Ellie Alexander, and it is the first book in the Bake Shop Mystery series. Now, if you're not new around here, I know you've already heard me talk about this series multiple times, so I know. But those of you who are new, this is probably one of my most favorite cozy mystery series, and it's for good reason. Ellie Alexander is an excellent cozy mystery author, and I feel like this series in particular, because she does have a few, is like quintessential cozy mystery. I personally feel like it's her best work, and it's just such a fun series all around. So just really quickly, the concept behind the series in general is a woman who returns back to her hometown after having been a baker on a cruise ship. She comes back home. She kind of picks up her parents' bakery or bake shop, where she starts to run it, and from there, her and her friends and family, you know, kind of do their day-to-day thing, while on the side she's kind of solving these murders that happen in her small town. Now, that sounds really like, okay, that's kind of the concept behind every cozy mystery, and I will give you that. That's typically how they all go. However, what really makes her series stand out, and cozy mysteries that are really good in general stand out, are the descriptions. And that's really why I wanted to list this one as one of the ones to get you hooked on cozy mysteries, because Ellie Alexander has a way with words where she paints a verbal picture that really, like, you can imagine this town. Now, don't get me wrong, Ashland is actually a real town, but unless you visited it, obviously you wouldn't know specifically what things look like, right? But the way that she gives these descriptions on page, you can imagine every single thing. You can smell what they're cooking in the bakery. You can kind of see the sidewalks as she describes the town square, even as she describes, like, I think it's like the town water fountain is like sulfur water or something like that. Anyway, the description of those are just so visceral, and I feel like, not even with cozy mysteries, but books in general, if an author can do that, like, they've really accomplished something. And so one of the things that I think makes this series so successful is that she does a great job blending kind of like those scene setting details along with the murder that our amateur sleuth has to solve, because obviously it's a cozy mystery, there's murder involved, and so that's going to be the main focus. But beyond that, you find yourself caring about the main characters, the kind of side characters as well, who are literally friends and family of our main character. And it's just such a wonderful series all around. It's such a great book to start out with that I highly recommend it if you're trying to get into the cozy genre. Okay, so the next book that I want to talk about is called The Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder. It's the first book in the Hannah Swenson mysteries, and it's by Joanne Fluke. The reason that I chose this one is really because of its popularity. You may have actually seen or heard about this on TV because it's so popular. They adapted it to a Hallmark movies and mystery movie series, essentially. So already right there, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to include this one, because it's gained so much popularity. It's on every like best cozy mystery of all time lists, and it's for a great reason. It picked up so much steam that they adapted it to the screen and it's just really fun. And so you may have actually watched it, and if so, that would be kind of like the perfect reason to pick up the books, which is why I wanted to recommend this series as well. And it's really just because of I don't even know how to describe it, the quintessential coziness, to be honest, of this series. Because as I mentioned with the Ellie Alexander Bake Shop mysteries, both of our main characters in that one, as well as this one, run a bakery. That's a really popular trope when it comes to cozy mysteries. Personally, I absolutely adore it. And so you've already kind of got that warm and fuzzy vibe of a bake shop to kind of ground you into the story. But in this case, what makes it different is that our location, we're in a small town in Minnesota, and I feel like when it comes to those Midwest towns, especially the small ones, everybody knows everybody's business. And so that's exactly the case when it comes to this. You know, every small town has its secrets, and it's up to our amateur sleuth, Hannah, to really solve them while also juggling her bakery as well. So like I said, I would definitely recommend this one, even if you have already watched the movies. And if you haven't, I would recommend watching those as well. I do think that they do an excellent job kind of conveying the murder mystery aspect while also keeping it, I don't want to necessarily say super lighthearted because there is murder, but very cozy, you know, very cozy mystery, which is really what this is all about. So yeah, that would definitely be my next one to kind of ease you into the genre, to get you hooked hooked on it. And the upside about it is that if you do enjoy the first book, there is a long backlist. Again, if you're new around here, just know I love me some backlist titles, some series that go on forever and ever. And this particular one has over 20 books. So if you find yourself liking the first one, you've got a whole bunch to continue with. And if you find yourself kind of interested in the idea of this series, but you don't want to start with the first book, you can really just dive in anywhere. That's one of the great things about cozy mysteries, is that more often than not, they're episodic, so you're not necessarily going to get like major spoilers in terms of who solved what crime, or rather who the bad guy was, but you might get a little bit in terms of like relationships, like maybe you didn't know Bill and Sue got together or something, but you know, at the end of the day, that doesn't really affect the murder that you're trying to solve for that particular book, you know? Okay, so the next series that I want to talk about, I want to say was actually how I got into the cozy mystery genre, and it wasn't until years later, after having read cozy mysteries, that I realized that this was a cozy mystery to begin with. And the series that I'm talking about is the Stephanie Plum series by Janet Evanovich. Now, quick note, this is also a series that's got a long backlist. I think they're on like the 30th book or something like that. So if you enjoy this one, you got a lot of books to get through. But I adore this series. And the reason that I was saying I didn't realize at the time that it was a cozy mystery-ish was because it doesn't hit quite the like check boxes for every kind of cozy mystery that you may think of. But when you kind of conceptualize it, it does. So, okay, let me kind of explain what I'm talking about, because I know I mentioned earlier in the video that more often than not, cozy mysteries feature amateur sleuths. They usually take place in small towns. Another aspect with cozies is that the murders are not usually very gruesome. They happen off screen, so to speak, and it's really just kind of the main character stumbling across the body and having to figure out the crime from there. So when it comes to the Stephanie Plum series, first of all, it's not in a small town. It actually takes place in Jersey somewhere. Is it Trenton? I think it's Trenton, Jersey. And I don't think that that's a small town. At least I wouldn't categorize it as one. But again, that's totally okay. And as for the amateur sleuth, our main character, Stephanie Plum, she's technically an amateur sleuth. She, her profession, at least when we first meet her in the first book, is that she was recently fired from her job, I think selling lingerie, and her cousin runs a bail bonds place, and so she becomes a bounty hunter for him. And I would categorize that, at least the way that Stephanie goes about it, as being an amateur sleuth, because she fumbles through that job so hard. She has no idea what she's doing. Her and her sidekick really just never really get the hang of things, but somehow serendipitously always catch their man. And it's just such a fun time. And that is really why I wanted to put it on this list. That is a surefire way to get you hooked on the cozy genre. Again, at least I know it did for me. And that's because of just how fun these characters are. So really quickly, what the series is about, I kind of touched on it earlier, but we've got our girl Stephanie, who is down on her luck. She really needs a job. She goes to her cousin who runs his bail bondsman's place, and he agrees to let her take on this bounty. And so she ends up proving herself, sort of, in the first book, and that kind of leads her to becoming a bounty hunter. So in addition to that, we have our side characters, which really make up this series. I cannot stress enough how much I adore these characters. So the first one that we've got is her Grandma Mazur. She is a hoot and a half. She's so funny. She kind of tags along with Stephanie sometimes. She's there with all of her quips and everything. She's that sassy Nana that I'm sure everybody has, or at least wants one of. And then we also have, I think her name is Lola. Oh my goodness, I really hope that's her name. It's been years since I've read this book. But anyway, basically, she is an ex-prostitute who comes in and wanting a job. She's like voluptuous, full of life, still wearing her like really short skirts that never changes, and basically becomes Stephanie's sidekick. And so the two of them really throughout the series make things comical with the way that they view things. And I keep calling her Lola, and I hope to God that's her name. If not, I'll put the correction below. below. But basically her ex-life as a hoe comes into effect, or a lot of the times, because they'll have to go to like seedy parts of town, and she'll use her relationships with people to kind of get information. It's just so funny. Okay, and so then also what we have, and I hate to say this because this is probably like the one thing that I don't love about the series, but we have a love triangle. We have Ranger, who is this badass, off the books kind of, I think he's like ex-Navy or something like that, but basically this guy who like helps her do things and go beyond the law to get the job done. And then on the flip side, we have Joe, who is a cop, and obviously very by the book, but he's just as rugged and handsome. And so a lot of the times we see both of them in the story, and she is getting help from both of them in each of their own different ways, again, to help get her guy to capture the man and get her bail bonds money, bounty hunter money, whatever. But anyway, Stephanie Plum's series is hilarious. Janet Evanovich does an excellent job with this. It keeps you entertained. They actually had a movie out. They made One for the Money, which is book 1, years ago with Katherine Heigl. The casting wasn't bad. The movie wasn't bad, but if you saw the movie, it did not give you a great indication about the book. So if you've seen the movie, just know, put that out of your mind. The books are so much better, and I highly, highly recommend them. Again, I think that they would be the perfect thing to get you hooked onto the cozy mystery genre, because they're fun. They're just so much fun. Okay, so the last book that I have for you is Arsenic and Adobo by Mia Manansala. This was actually a book of the month pick last year, and it's a cozy mystery, which at the time, I feel like that was like the first, if not one of the very few books that they featured on Book of the Month that's a cozy mystery. And that got a lot of people interested in the genre because the book was really popular, as it should have been, because it's a great book. But that's why I wanted to pick it, because you may have heard about this book already, you may have read it, and if so, that's a great gateway into the cozy mystery genre, because it checks mostly, again, all of the boxes for cozy mystery. So really quickly, if you haven't read the book, basically it features a woman who is Filipina. I believe she's living in Chicago. I don't remember, but it's not a small town. That's not really relevant in this case because it still is very cozy. But basically her aunts run a Filipino restaurant, and one of the patrons who's eating at the restaurant dies, and so of course suspicion falls on the aunts at the restaurant because people think that they either intentionally or unintentionally poison this person. And so it's up to our heroine to clear her aunt's name so that the restaurant's reputation is restored. So that said, this was a great book for a few reasons. Like I said, it was a Book of the Month club pick, which opened a lot of people's eyes to the cozy mystery genre. The descriptions of the food, I mean, the title alone, it's food, because adobo is a Filipino dish, but the descriptions within the book, because it's set at a restaurant, are just so rich. You will be so hungry. I know I was listening to it because I did listen to it on audiobook. And then I think that it's a great first book that sets up a promising series, because like I mentioned, this is the first book. They did come out with the second book recently, Homicide and Halo-Halo. Side note, Halo-Halo is another Filipino dish. It's a dessert, but anyway, that's not the point. But this is a great foray into the cozy mystery genre, as well as this particular series. Now, one of the other reasons why I wanted to bring this one up is because while it's a cozy mystery, and it is for the most part light, there are some kind of heavier topics with this, which is one thing that I think might kind of pull in readers who aren't familiar with the cozy genre, who may actually like kind of like more procedural books or more thriller or more darker books, so to speak, because of the kind of heavy topics that are handled in this. And what I mean by that is we still kind of got our off the page main murder, but our main character deals with discrimination, some like police bigotry, so to speak, kind of like real topics that happen in our world today. This was a very grounded book because our author actually had to put a note in the beginning kind of touching on all of these topics, because a lot of cozy mysteries often don't go that deep, but that's one of the things that made this book stand out, because it did go there. It wasn't afraid to shy away from those heavy hitting yet realistic topics. And again, that's one of the reasons why I decided to tell you all about this one as your introduction, or to get you hooked on cozy mysteries, because there are cozies out there that are still fun, but again, don't shy away from those heavier topics, or are very relevant in our society today. Okay, so there you have it, a handful, 5 specifically, books to get you hooked on the cozy mystery genre. Hopefully I did this list justice. Obviously there are literally thousands of cozy mysteries out there that you can pick from, but I feel like these 5 are a good foundation if you're looking to kind of dabble into the genre, especially depending on what you like. Because again, if you're coming from like a thriller or procedural mystery loving background, you might enjoy the Arsenic and Adobo. But if you want something that's more like laugh out loud funny, maybe if you like rom-coms, I would suggest the Janet Evanovich series. If you're like a foodie, or you like watching the Food Network or something like that, definitely check out like the Chocolate Chip Cookie Murders or the Bake Shop Mysteries. And then obviously if you're you know, coming from a very classic background, you've heard of Agatha Christie, you probably have read the Poirot books, or at least seen the movies, then you can check out the Miss Marple one that I mentioned, The Body in the Library. So there's something for everyone. Hopefully you got some good recommendations. If you have read these, let us know in the comments what you thought of them, so those who aren't familiar can kind of read through and assess which one they want to read first. And if you have your own suggestions about books that you think are perfect to get people hooked on the cozy mystery genre, leave those recommendations as well. So as usual, I hope you guys enjoyed this list. If you did, please like and subscribe. In the meantime, happy reading, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!